problem I don't have to remote.
Going in there?
So I think we might need to glue that.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, so
Let's lose the topic.
laptop.
Mhm.
There we go.
All right.
And then I would unmute your audio.
Okay, and then let's turn that.
Which you should be good to go now. We should all.
Oh, keep talking.
This is our Virgin Voyage. I love it.
So hello, everybody, and welcome to Crucial Conversations about Cognitive Diversity. Coming to you first ever time live from Studio City with the amazing Julie Skolnick and an array of in-person guests. So thank you all so much. We have two guests that actually drove here all the way from Venice and actually Venice, California, not the other Venice. And then we have another guest who is really excited because this is the first time that she's been able to join us live. And I told her, when better than for our first ever live to join us. And then we have another potential parent and some staff. So,
Yay.
Just in case you don't know, my name's Maria Kennedy, and I have the honor to be your host because I get to speak to somebody who I admire an awful lot. She is a mom, she's an educator, an author. She has worked so diligently to ensure that parents struggling with knowing what to do with their 2E children have an outlet and a space. And she didn't stop there. She extended it even to people who have found out in later life that they're 2E. So she also works with 2E adults. So without further ado, let me stop talking because I'll talk all day. You all know that. Let me introduce the amazing, the incomparable, the fantastic Julie Skolnick.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you guys for being here and making the effort to be here, and all the people in virtual land. I know there's a lot of you, so thank you for being here and joining us for this first ever Virgin Voyage of Crucial Conversations live.
Yeah. And thank you so much for your patience because we did start a little late due to technical difficulties. But, you know, they sent these wonderful people from Venice to sort it out for us. I don't know what we're doing. So, Julie, let's kickstart. So I have a list of questions and I'm going to ask you some of them.
You're not going to use,
but I'll ask you some of them and then I won't. Remember though, the purpose of Crucial Conversations is for us to ask our guests what you want to know. So get those questions in the chat for me, start typing them away. And I've just realized I don't have my computer, so I'm going to need to move my computer so that I can read them. So
like
yes,
I said, Virgin Voyage.
Yes, exactly. I'm usually literally in front of my screen. Thank you so much. So type your questions in the chat. Remember the deal. The sooner you type your questions, the sooner we're able to get them answered. I'm going to start with just a couple of things and have Julie just talk about very, very briefly about the book, Gifted and Distractible, and why, Julie? Why this book and why now? See, didn't ask one of those questions. Why this book?
Two questions.
Because hello, two questions. I'm reading.
Okay, so first of all, guys, kindness and generosity, because I literally got off a plane a couple of hours ago from Maryland to be here. So anyway, let me remember those two questions. Why did I write this book and why now? Okay,
Yes.
so the book is called Gifted and Distractible. So you can see it there, I think. And that actually is the name. And by the way, people who are here, also if you have questions, just raise your hands and we will answer them. So Gifted and Distractible has been my tagline for 10 years. So I hung out my shingle for With Understanding Comes Calm 10 years ago. And I actually researched what would be, because if you think twice exceptional or 2E is unknown now, think about it 10 years ago. So I pulled out the pediatric guide and I looked up what word could be the biggest umbrella term for that second exceptionality. And distractible is what I landed on. So Gifted and Distractible is the name of the book. The reason I wrote the book, so for 10 years, I've been trying to shout from the rooftops about this amazing population. I truly think these are the people, the kids and the people, because we don't outgrow our 2E-ness, who are going to change the world.
Yes.
But the world isn't set up for them. So what happens is they start to internalize negative messaging and we lose out on all the awesomeness from these 2E people. So I've been working one-on-one, one-on-two with clients, parents, training teachers, working with clinicians, working with 2E adults to really help understand, develop strategies, and learn how to advocate. So those three things, understanding, strategies, and advocacy, that's my cycle for success, and it's how the book is divided into three parts. So why now? Well, I've been a little busy for the last 10 years. I used to say I have this book in my brain, and if I could just tilt my head, it would come out. It took a little bit more than that, but finally the stars aligned, and there was so much interest for this book that actually publishers were kind of clamoring to publish it, and Penguin Random House ended up winning, and it's been a great experience. So that's, did I answer both questions?
You did.
Oh,
Good job. And thank you, Penguin Random House. Okay, see, questions are already coming in, so let's kick them off. But like Julie says, if you're here and you have a question,
In the live studio audience.
yes. Oh, yeah. Live studio audience, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we will call on you, because this is just so exciting for us. Okay, so from our non-live studio audience, we're going to kick off. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
As a mom homeschooling a 2E kiddo and a former high school science teacher, I would love to get involved on a bigger scale to make public school a place where my kiddo and other 2E kiddos can thrive. Where can I make the biggest impact? Training teachers, admin, classroom demonstrations.
Wow, that is such a beautiful soul who has reached out via Zoom chat.
Mhm.
And so it really, so first of all, just as we play to our 2E kids' strengths and passions, I want you to think about what you're really passionate about. Because I could go a million different directions for you. I could say, oh my gosh, you're homeschooling? That's amazing. So many people actually would love to hire a homeschool director for the homeschool division of With Understanding GovScholars. Because so many parents are looking, how do I homeschool my kid? What are my first steps? How do I do it? On the other hand, wouldn't it be amazing if school actually worked? Right? So there's a lot of, and I would say that's going to be actually at a political level. That's going to be a Department of Education level in your state or even federally on how to revamp the education system. Because guess what? Best practices for 2E kids are best practices for all kids. So, crazy story. 3 weeks ago, I trained actually gymnastics coaches on how to coach 2E kids. So now I'm training coaches on how to coach 2E athletes. And this brilliant 20-something owner of the gym said to her coaches after I finished my presentation, you know what, guys, I know you're so stressed about differentiating. You don't have to differentiate. Just do the best practices for all of our athletes. And that's really the message that we want to give. So I don't know if I answered specifically whose phone number to call, but I would really think about what it is you are really passionate about. Because I'm really passionate about 2E kids. I parent 3 awesome 2E kiddos, and that lights my fire, and that's why I've been able to do what I do. That's why our 2E kids succeed when they're allowed to do what they're passionate about and what they're interested in. So think about what you really are interested in, because then you're gonna wake up every morning like I thank God do, and you're gonna just run, not walk, to get to work.
Awesome. Question from our live studio audience.
Yeah, okay, so follow-up question to TACT, which is this. One, how do you recommend that 2E parents communicate with teachers when they're in a regular school? Like, it's been hard, we've been challenged to educate and help them grow and understand how to help parents, how to understand our child.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah, so the question from our live studio audience is, how do you advocate with teachers who maybe roll their eyes? Maybe you get the feeling like, oh, everybody thinks their kid's gifted. I mean, how many times do I hear that statement, right? Or that gifted isn't a thing, that all kids have gifts, right? You know, but that doesn't make them gifted. So the question really was, how do we advocate best for our 2E kids? So there's a whole section of the book on this, and I'm gonna try to whittle it down. And those of you who are coming to the Bridges Parent University tomorrow, I will absolutely be talking about advocacy for my second talk tomorrow. So I talk about this, first of all, I do an entire talk on the top 10 communication strategies between parents and teachers. Because your question, I bet there are a bunch of people, and if there are, go ahead and put it in chat. I've had that experience too. So Maria can tell this lovely family that they're not alone. Because I know you're struggling to advocate on behalf of your city child for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason is it's emotional. So it's hard to be your best self whenever it's emotional. And why is it emotional? Because people don't get your kid. Your kid's misunderstood. They don't get you. You feel not seen. Your kid feels not seen, right? So first of all, it's the emotional piece. So if that's happening, you may actually need some help with an outside advocate to help. Okay, if you're not getting heard. I recommend to my parent clients actually that they start every parent-teacher conference with this question. Tell me when you see my kid shine. When do you see my kid at his or their best? Why? Because first of all, it's going to frame the conversation to a positive reframe. So it kind of shifts that dynamic. Secondly, if they're like, that's a big clue that your child might be in a toxic environment. And that's really important to pay attention to and respond to, and probably advocate for that kid to move to a different classroom. I hate to say it, and I know a lot of educators might be like, but it's true. I have 3 2-week kids, and each of them have been in a toxic environment. And I'd rather my kid not be in school than be in a toxic. So I would say a little bit more. I talk about the art of advocacy. Acknowledge, request, thank. It's a little, is that an acronym? Yes.
Yes.
It's a little acronym. It's a little way of, I do a lot of mnemonics for working memory because 2E people come from 2E people. So we all kind of need some support sometimes. So lots of what I teach, acronyms and mnemonics and images. So it makes you remember, I'm coming in emotional because my kid had this thing happen or this teacher doesn't get it. And wait a minute. You know what? Let me give the benefit of the doubt, just like I want the teacher to give my kid the benefit of the doubt. Let me give the benefit of the doubt and know that teachers become teachers mostly because they want to teach. So let me acknowledge how busy and hard it is to be a teacher right now. Okay, so let me acknowledge that. And then let me make my request very specific. So it's so important to have, and the book actually talks about, and there's a whole worksheet on how to change general requests into specific requests so that you can then have action items that you determine together collaboratively so that there's a way to move forward. And then gratitude is super important. So that was like a 2-minute answer to like a third of the book, but it was a great question and I'm sure you're not alone in wondering that. So thank you for asking.
Awesome. Great question from the house. I'm sorry, live studio audience.
Yeah, LSU.
Oh, there you go. Lovely. So another question from our non-live, but so I'm curious as to how many adults realize their own twice exceptionality when their children are diagnosed. I'm working in parallel, both how to figure out my daughter's and also working through my own lower trauma as a result of being forced to mask my own disability, in both cases, likely autism.
How great that you feel comfortable to ask that question, and I'm so grateful to you because I can't give you a number. I wish I could give you a number, but I can't give you a number. But I can tell you that what's really interesting, and I don't know the gender you identify as, and I don't try not to make blanket statements, but I will say this. Many times moms will come to me to be my client and they will say, well, I'm not gifted. And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking in my head, but they're not ready to see that part, let alone the 2E part. So many. This is genetic, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, all those things. So the cool thing is, I will say, and it does sound a little bit advertising, but I think it's worth it at this moment because it's extraordinarily impactful. But I host something called the Haystack. The Haystack is for all the 2E adult needles out there to find other needles in the haystack. It is gorgeous. These people come together. We have I don't even know, 51 right now, people who are involved. We have 45 on the wait list. It's global and people join 4 times a year, and it's all about how do we behave not masking. I've had people cry and not know why, and I don't know what's happening to my body, they say. And we're all like, you're not masking for the first time in your life. We're all hanging out, you get to be you. It's so fun. And you know, all the things happen. People, you know, share their quirks or their differences, and people ask questions, and there's a subset asking about parenting, and there's a subset asking about school, and there's a subset asking about work, and it's all okay. And we all come to it from this like baseline understanding of all the things that you have to explain to everybody to get to the meat of the stuff you want to talk about. So the question you asked was, how many people come to understand their 2E-ness through their child? And what I'm gonna say is, what's a gift you get from your kid? To have that self-understanding, that self-awareness. You can stop beating yourself inside your head for something that you don't know the name of, because all it is you're you. And that's the beautiful thing about being you. There's something I always say, and I apologize to those of you who are gonna be here tomorrow and probably hear this again because I love to say this. But you know what? When you leave the room, guys, I'm looking at all my live people here. When you leave the room, you're still with you. So you might as well like you. And that's the goal. The goal is self-love. Spoiler alert, that's the end of the book.
I love that. It's really funny that you say that, because when I went home back to the UK, for those people that don't know I'm foreign,
We can't tell at all.
You know, I'm masking, pretending to be American.
I just like to listen. I just like to call Maria to hear her accent.
So when I went home, you know, they do reunions and things. So I go home, and a couple of people, in fact, almost everybody that met me said, "Oh my God, you're still the same." And my blanket response was, "Well, of course I am. I like me." Little did I know that that's what I should be doing. So I'm just feeling so validated. So
Beautiful
thank you.
thing. It's a
Right?
beautiful thing.
But yeah, because at nighttime when I put my head on my pillow, I'm still with me.
Yeah,
So it's important that I start from liking me. But yeah, thank you for that.
you're welcome.
We have another question from the live studio audience.
So I love you. I love
I love you too.
you know, well, let's talk about self-love, because I'd say as a parent of a 2E child, it takes a little while to start understanding what's going on.
Yes.
And so while our the grandparents are, oh, they're so smart. Oh, or maybe even some caregivers along the way have said, there's some quirks there, and they were really giving you a hint, you've got a neurodiverse child. Sometimes it takes a little while for the school system and for you to really realize we really have something here that we don't know what it is. And so I think a lot of parents, and I'd love for you to speak to some of your clients or someone you've seen, we feel guilt, we feel shame. Did we get there too late? Sadness, grieving the life that you thought your child might have, but understanding now there's going to be a very different road. Can you kind of speak to that? What do you tell your parents and maybe some validation that this is part of that journey for us?
So first of all, it's never too late. It just really isn't. I have 2E adults who are in their 70s who come to me and say, like, I just figured this out. I have parents, I've had parents, probably 2 parents with kids under 2. And I've had parents with kids who are 17, and then when they become 18, then they're adults, so then they can work directly. So it's never too late. The guilt, the shame, like that hurts my heart. But I hold that with you and for you, because we're all like, it's okay to mourn the loss of what you thought, or like you didn't sit in bed and go, let's have kids and let's make sure it's really freaking hard for them. Right? Let's make sure people don't get them, that they don't get to be who they are and all that stuff. And let's make it so that it's really hard and you have no idea how to parent these people. Right? Like that's the deal. So here's the thing. The most important thing that parents can give any kid, but especially 2E kids, is agency. Meaning the ability to feel their huge emotions, the ability to sit in, and I'm getting chills, so I know people need to hear this, because that happens. The ability to sit in the struggle and then to workshop how to get out of that struggle without being told how to get out of that struggle. That's the hardest thing for parents and the most important thing for parents, because guess what? Life's kind of hard, you know, for everybody. And so if your child is given the gift of critically thinking through their challenges and being validated for their feelings, but then being allowed to sort of figure out through being asked questions about what they're going to do or what they wish they did or what would be the thing that they'd most like to happen, and then kind of letting them kind of work through how that might happen, have it not work, have it work. That's the best thing to do for them. I want to get up and
We'll hug him after.
Yep, I've got a hug for you.
Gives great hugs. Okay, so, oh, this is a really good question. What do you say to a school district that say 2E doesn't exist?
I love those.
And it's a California school district, which is even worse.
Give them my number. Are you ready? No. Oh, that's the whole question. Okay.
That is the whole question. Sorry.
So first of all, I really want you to know that I feel in my guts your frustration. That sucks. I'm just gonna validate that for you right now. These are the people you are trusting your children with. These are the people who are supposed to educate your children. These are the people who actually want your child to be flexible, but are not. How does that even work? So my question is really, I mean, short of moving, right? What is your goal? How do we get you to your goal? Because one of your goals is to educate them just because you're human. But is that really the goal you need to address for your kid? So what does your kid need? And you know, certainly you can give, so okay, one of the things I talk about with parents in school systems that are like this is you gotta find a quarterback in your school. Who is the person who gets, or at least likes, your child? If the answer is I don't know or no one, then we do have to think about plan B. Because it's just not gonna, hope springs eternal for parents of 2 kids, but sometimes the time and the destruction is. I mean, I'm telling you, this is like a crystal ball moment, and there aren't a lot of crystal ball moments. But if that's the case, and you're banging your head against the wall, and you're like, but what do I do because I need to go to work, and what do I do because of this and that and the other thing? Unfortunately, I have to say, the damage that can be done to a kid who's in a classroom day after day after day and told how bad, awful, wrong they are, it's not worth it. I will tell you a story about one family that came to me. And they're in the book. There's actually an artifact from their kid in the book. This is a wild story. This family came to me, it was before COVID. It's like, you know, BC now means before COVID.
Yes.
I just made that up. I've never said that. Anyway, so they came to me before COVID. I don't remember when, but it was years ago. And their child was, and this kid is profoundly gifted, little girl. And the culture of this family dictated that they follow rules. And I remember the mom weeping on my couch. They met with me in person from where I was from. And the mom was weeping from the couch because I basically gave her permission to parent differently. There was no way this kid. So let me back up. They called me and they explained to me the toxic environment that their kid was in kindergarten. And I could not meet with these people for 3 weeks. And by what they were telling me, I actually said, Fuller, I've never done that before and I've never done it since without meeting somebody, but what they shared with me, I said, pull her out. She cannot be there for another day. And thank God they did, and hallelujah, that's a success story, but When you read my book and you see the artifact from a school that had this little girl sign her name to a form that said how bad she was, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I hate that stuff.
So you can try to educate these people, and that would be very lovely of you, but I'm gonna say, stick to the goal of your kid. You've got to really think about what your kid needs and if it actually can happen there. And if you really don't have a plan B or can't get out of the situation you're in and you can't homeschool, then you need to see who you can find who's either an outside advocate, and I know everything is so expensive and there are so many therapies that our kids need. So I want to be sensitive to that, or you need to find a quarterback within the school or within the Department of Education where you can really have your voice heard.
Beautiful. So we'll need to start finding some quarterbacks.
I know, I kind of want to give you my email so you can help you update me, because now I'm going to think about this forever. So Juliet@understandingfilmscom.com.
You can say that
You
again.
need to update me. I need to hear what happened with this child.
Yes, I want to know too.
Thank you for that question.
Excellent. So this is brilliant. Is there a haystack for teens? My teen daughter feels isolated at her high school. Are there resources for creating support groups for kids?
So I am actually going to give you a great one, which is not mine. I don't work with kids. My theory is to circle the wagons of the grownups. Parents, I love you and I love working with parents, and most people don't. So that I love working with parents. And I love working with 2E adults, and I love training teachers, and I love working with clinicians. So that's what I do. It's not that I don't love working with kids. My insurance doesn't cover it, and it's not where I'm focusing. But let me give you a great resource. Gordon Smith, who is at Gifted and Growing, does teen and adult improv, and it's magical. So check that out for teens. And also, I would look at the Supporting the Emotional Needs of the Gifted website, sanggifted.org. It has one G, SENGIFTED.org, and the National Association for Gifted Children, NAGC.org. I would also look at your state gifted association to see what they have. And crazy as this sounds, look at your local Facebook groups, gifted local Facebook groups by county, by city, by state, and ask there, because you might even get in-person stuff.
Awesome. John's on it. He's typed all of those in.
Yay, John!
Way to go, John. Okay. Oops, I've lost the question. Sorry, I scrolled too fast. Okay, so non-live, non-in-person, sorry. Yeah,
Yes,
because
we're
this-
taking questions from dead people now, Maria. Great, I love it. Who said you can't get advice from the great?
If I can make it happen, trust me, I will. All about the things that are.
Get the people what they need.
That's right, let's do it. So, so this person says, I have not had the opportunity to read the book yet. And why not? Get on it now. Julia.
That just come
please
tomorrow,
do it.
I'll sign it for
Right.
you.
So, I'm teasing, I'm sorry. But I'm wondering if there is information regarding the rate of 2E students failing to get IEPs as younger students who eventually get qualified as older students under ED. So do they not get the identification in their youth and then get it older? Do we know if that pattern exists?
So I don't know the answer to that question, but what I think you're getting at is when the gift masks the challenge.
Yeah.
And so there's a Supreme Court case called Andrew F. It's Andrew, like Andrew, but with an E, Andrew F. And if you go to understood.org and you put in Andrew F., you'll learn all about the importance of meeting children where they are and what the Supreme Court says about it. So by the way, that's actually a really good, that's a really good thing for our former question who asked about a district that doesn't recognize, or a school that doesn't recognize 2E. So I don't know the statistic for you. So I can't really answer that to you, but I would say, because 2E people come in all different flavors, and I like to call them cocktails myself. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but there are a lot of different cocktails or mixing bowl of ingredients that go into being 2E. sometimes the gift masks the challenge and sometimes the challenge masks the gift, and both are not good for the 2E person. So very often, this is why Susan Baum talks about that you need to be green. You can't look at the blue challenges or the yellow strength. You gotta look at the green kid. You gotta look at it all so that you have the support where you need it and you have the acceleration and enrichment where you need it. And frankly, from where I sit, and Susan, I think, says the same thing, you need to actually shore up struggles through the portal of strengths. So using those strengths. So for instance, I'm just getting on a tangent here.
Go for it.
So I have clients who ask me all the time. I get this question a lot. Should we send our kid to a social skills camp this summer or to the camp that he really loved last summer? For me, that's a no-brainer. You gotta go to the camp he loved, because guess what? He's gonna learn the social skills way faster there because he loves the camp. So he's doing something he loves, got high motivation to the social skills. That's the thing. If you can stay in the passion and the interest, that's your best bet.
I say that a lot because parents, we're led to believe that we have to fix our
Yes.
kids.
Yeah.
They're not broken,
Yeah.
they're just misunderstood,
Yeah.
you know?
They're not only misunderstood, but they misunderstand themselves because of all the misunderstanding. Everybody around them, and that's the worst part. Is that negative self-talk. That's where the grown-ups are masking, right? That's where that comes from. We learn to echolocate because we're really smart. So we're gonna watch other people, and then we're gonna do what other people do because it seems like they're succeeding. But then we're gonna go home, we're gonna be exhausted. Or we're gonna fail at it because we don't actually get it.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was a question from an
On the live first.
live studio audience. I'm working on it, people. You don't work with me. Come on. What you said about understanding the patient.
I have such understanding
That's-
patience. Also, I talk about humor a lot.
But and that's I always think it's important to have a sense of humor. It's basically the only reason I've survived. But one of our patrons says it's especially hard when we parents have school trauma from all the challenges and unmet needs our kids experience. So
I can say something to that. You person who put that in the chat went right directly into my heart. To this day, okay, I have 3 kids, one's almost 23, one's almost 21, one's almost 15. To this day, I blame the preschool teacher. I used to blame, before I knew anything about anything, I used to blame the preschool teacher for my kids' ADHD. Because my beautiful child would, and I didn't know what was happening. Do you know why I figured this out? This is actually really important for parents to hear. I go to this parent-teacher conference and I go, is he not the funniest person you've ever met? And the teacher goes, no,
ooh.
we don't see that. And I was like, oh my God. And that was like black and white. I thought everything was great. I had no idea. And then I came in for some special parent day and we were doing some special thing. And the teacher was reading a book and my kid was like, oh, do you see the ladybug crawling off the side of the page? Like there were cool things he was noticing. And she was like, I'm reading. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I hear you, trauma. I hear you big time. To this day, that kid is like an astrophysicist and I'm still traumatized over this. So it's real. It's totally real. And I have this huge bucket that I'm holding all of your feelings all the time because I know. And I don't think that makes it any easier for you, but I just want you to know, I feel it. And I've been there. And I know you care, and I know you're doing everything you can. You're sitting here on a Friday afternoon listening to me and Maria talk, and so you care so much, and that is so important. So every day starts anew, and every day you have best intentions. And that's where it starts and that's where it ends. That's so important.
I love that. Just giving a timeout notice because we don't have much time left. The time always disappears when I get to spend time with this amazing human here. So if you do have any remaining questions, you need to pop them into the Q&A really quickly. We have about 10 minutes. And if you don't get your question asked, then, you know, you can email Julie directly, or you can email me and I'll email Julie for you, at some point. So that's, sorry. Okay, so you talked about, my brain went fried there. You talked about the trauma that parents have, and starting each day afresh. How do we help our children start each day afresh?
Good question.
Because we know that our children hang on to the trauma of the day before, the week before, the month before, the year before.
Yeah.
They hang on to what people say about them and how they make them feel inadequate. So what as parents can we do to help our children, you know, shed that trauma from the day before, if at all possible, and start afresh, willing to face the new set of challenges for the day?
Unfortunately, you're not going to get your kid to shed the trauma from the day before. I'm sorry, but with understanding comes calm. So you got to take care of yourselves. If you're not well slept, if you're not well fed, if you're not well exercised, if you're not well taken care of, you're gonna react to their challenging behavior and you're gonna forget that behavior is communication. So the most important thing is, and I really recommend this, is to take the temperature of your child in the morning, like either by observation or ask 1 to 10, how you doing? 1, you just want to stay in bed. 10, you're ready to rock and roll. If they're 5 or less, you may have to adjust your expectations for the day. And by the way, just asking that question might move the needle from 5 to 5. And then we got to validate. And by the way, if you are struggling in the morning routine, anybody struggling with the morning routine? Yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? So you can't expect it to change because you really want it to change. You shouldn't really want it to change if it's not positive, but we have to change the approach or the strategies. We have to do something different because it's not just going to change on its own. And you know who's going to help you the most with how to change? Your kid. You got to ask your kid, what's going to make this easier? What do you need? What can I do to help you? But remember how we talked about agency with one of our live studio audience questions? That's building agency. Let them tell you, parents, you work too hard. Get some help, outsource to your kid. They can really help you.
I love that. Oh, we have another question from our live studio audience.
Yes. Another question.
No, I love it.
Can you speak a little bit more to hope and optimism? And you've alluded to this a little bit, but you know, you have 3 kids and you're still standing, right? You have 3 to-be kids, and you know, we're all different phases of this. And there's some parents who are just figuring this out. There's some that are like, I've been in it. But for those parents who are just kind of getting into this and understanding this is our life, where's the hope? Where's the optimism?
So the question, just making sure everybody could hear, was, it's a great question and a great question to end on, is where's the hope, where's the optimism? For everybody in different stages of finding out, whether their kids are small and they're just finding out, the kids are older and they're just finding out, even for adults who are just finding out. Like, here's the deal, guys, okay? You ready? You know how you really want to get to the place where you're just chugging along and everything's easy, we're on a plateau and no problem. Yeah, so that's death. Is the struggle, people. That's what it's about. That's what life is meant. We are here on the planet for a reason. And part of it is figuring out the struggle. It's not really what happens to you, but how you handle it. Which is what we were talking about with that lovely question about what do we do when the school district doesn't even accept the reality of reality, right? So the hope, let's start with self-love as parents. Let's be okay with who we are as parents. So important. How can we expect our kids to be okay with who they are if we're not okay with who we are? And every day you start new. In fact, in Hebrew, that's called Modeh Ani. It's the first prayer we say in the morning, and it's getting the new day. So you get a new day every single day, and I know you're trying as hard as you can. So do lots of validating, do lots of loving, be flexible, and ask your kid to help you. There you go. I think we can squeeze in, yeah, we're gonna squeeze in one more question. So this question from not live in studio audience. I find that schools, even understanding ones, still have a really hard time with kids that have changing emotional regulation over the week. And they don't like it if the kid is less than 5 on the 1 to 10 scale and just can't make it into school. Any advice about how to explain this to schools so that it might be a permanent part of a kid's profile? How can we tell the school that this is who they are? So I guess my first question is, if your child is evaluated, and by the way, you can always talk to the person who evaluates your child to ask them to put language like this in the report, which can be very helpful. Because you're talking about permanence and that type of thing. I think there's also a very important concept of collaborating with school. Like, here's what, like saying what the issue is, just like we need to do with our kids, saying what the issue is to school, recognizing and acknowledging school's challenge with it, and then working together to try to figure out a pathway forward. So first of all, I would try to collaborate with school. Try to stomach asking school to help you problem solve. Okay, because if we give school agency, right, they're gonna feel invested. It's the same exact thing that we do with our kids. So I still wanna think more about what I wanna say, because there were a million things that popped into my head when you read the question, and I'm also jet lagging, so read me again the beginning of the question. I find that schools, even understanding ones, still have a really hard time with kids that have changing emotional regulation over the week. Okay, you don't have to keep up, but thank you. So this whole 1 to 10 thing, that kind of threw me for a loop. I mean, I know what it is, but it seems a little rigid and arbitrary at the same time. I feel like, who's 1 to 10? 1 to 10 according to the school, 1 to 10 according to the kid, 1 to 10 according to the parents. I don't really know what that is. And I also don't really know how does the child have language to talk about that? Does the child have room to realize when you do, oh, maybe you said 1 to 10 because I said 1 to 10. Okay, I'm with you now. I am with you now. I thought there was something coming from school that they were, okay, woo. Julie is now back on the planet. And, okay. So what happens is if the kid's 5 or under, it doesn't mean you're keeping them from school. It means you're adjusting your timeline in the morning if you can. And even if you can't adjust your timeline because you have siblings to get out the door, you have to get to your job, you can talk to your child about this, perhaps this 1 to 10 check-in, and you can decide with the child, like, okay, so let's say you're 5 or under. What does that mean? Maybe the kid gets to eat their breakfast in bed that day, but you're still getting out the door by 7:45. Maybe the kid, but they decide. So they have this structure that they've created. You're still meeting your needs because you've structured it so they're still leaving the house at the same time, but we're adjusting somewhere else. That makes it easier for them. Now, for the school that doesn't understand, you have to collaborate and you guys have to actually agree on what's okay. Like, is this child tardy so often that the school, there's a problem statewide, statewide, because there are certain expectations or regulations. That's a different question. And again, I would say, what's going on for that kid in school that's making it hard for him to get there, or her or them to get there? So again, I'm going to say collaborating with the school, collaborating with the child, and you guys we parent out of fear sometimes. Cause we're really, we see all the things that can happen. And we just want our kiddo to be okay, whatever that means, okay, happy, joyful, loving themselves, whatever. And so sometimes we either forget the goal or we're too goal oriented and forget the needs of the child. So it is complicated, it is complex. Every day is different, but every day you do get a new start, a fresh start. And so there's no magic bullet. And everything is different. You know, it's teacher by teacher every year, right? Let alone school by school, let alone kid by kid. So it's really believing in yourself and knowing what your goals are or what your priorities are, what's really important, and what you can do with all the complexities that's in your life. So right now, I'm literally working with a client and we're trying to structure screen time. This happens all the time, structuring screen time. Trying to structure screen time for their 14-year-old. And they haven't agreed on what the expectations are that they actually want. So parents, first of all, have to be on the same page. You have to actually know what you want. We're all trying to do all the things, but if we haven't actually talked about it, so sometimes it's very confusing what we're telling our kids to do because we're confused. So that's number one. We have to know actually what we want. What is okay? Then they start identifying holes. Well, we actually can't be around to observe that. The kids are actually alone until 5 o'clock, right? So if this is a priority, guess what? You got to figure out how you can either work from home or the child's going to be in an after school activity. Something. We have to figure out what's the priority and what's the goal. And then we have to think about and anticipate all the challenges so that we make sure we address them so we can meet that goal. That was a really long, I don't even know if I answered the question, but
Great.
that was a long answer. Was it okay, guys? Was it okay?
Yes.
Did you get anything out of it? Okay, yay.
Here we go. Oh, we'll squeeze in one more in. Do you have, from a non-student live studio audience, do you have any advice to motivate gun-shy 2020 high school grad who flunked out of college after first semester mid-COVID and depression?
Yeah, I actually get that question a lot. And I assume that the child is living at home. And here's what I'm going to tell you. This kid needs some time off. This kid needs a break. And so you're thinking to yourself, we've got to get them to whatever point. But they're not even at that starting line yet. They're back here and they need some curing to happen. They need some healing to happen. And I know that's so hard. So and if there's another parent in the home or who you can work with, you guys have to come together and be like, okay, how long can we be without having expectations for this child so that they can actually heal? Now, that doesn't mean you don't have any expectations or structure, because we don't want our beautiful 2E brains to suddenly be in the basement online, ignoring everything in the world. So we do have to have some structure. So again, you're going to collaborate with this child. You're going to say, hey, it has been a really couple of years. And we recognize how hard you have been trying, which, by the way, is another flashpoint for me. How many times we hear that our kids are lazy, not trying, unmotivated. They're actually trying harder than everybody else. So let's recognize that. Let's let them know we know they need a break, but let's let them know that the break isn't going to last forever. And what amount of time do you need for us not to talk to you about any expectations? And then hopefully they have a therapist that they're working with, and you're going to work with the therapist. The child's in a really precarious position because it's their job to push you away at this age, but they really need you. And it's really annoying that they need you in their opinion. So you're walking this really unenviable line, parents, and I get it. But they need some time to heal, and they need to know that you're okay with that for a certain amount of time. And then you need some outside help. So you need a therapist for them, you may need a coach or an advocate for you, because it's hard to wake up every day and see your beautiful, brilliant child not launching.
It is. I'm heartbroken just thinking about it.
So, but again, what's the most important thing? You want this child to be healthy and to love themselves. And so we're gonna try to find the things that they love to do, and we're gonna try to, and we might have to backdoor it. You may not be able to. In fact, before we even got on, somebody bought a book and said, I really want to buy this for my 20-something-year-old, but if I give it to them, he'll never read it. And I was like, okay, so let's backdoor it. Who's the favorite uncle? Who's the favorite, friend? Who's the teacher, the therapist, or somebody who can talk about the things that you want to talk about with your child, but have it not be you saying these things. Sometimes we gotta do that.
Yeah. You see, the time's disappeared. You are
I know, so
amazing. I know. I'm just gonna check in with my live studio audience. Do we have any last questions from the floor? It doesn't matter if you've asked a question before, you can ask a last ditch, because we've only got her for a few more moments.
I'm very appreciative of everybody being here, and you're processing. Allow yourself to process all the things we just talked about. They're all really important, very deep, very emotional. And, this is all part of that living that life of figuring it out.
Amazing. So we've come to the end of our little time together. It's been absolutely amazing. So again, I get to learn so much more from you, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you again tomorrow. So if you have other questions for Julie, unfortunately, we're out of time. So please feel free to email and let me know, and I'll get Julie to answer them for you. So it's the end of another episode of Crucial Conversations about Cognitive Diversity, but this month you are blessed because we have 2 episodes this month. 2 episodes this month, right? So our next episode, so save the date, mark the calendar, is going to be Wednesday, because it's always on Wednesday, March 20th. And I have 2 guests for our second episode of the month. And so we will be back at our regular time of 1 p.m. East. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. You see, I don't understand why in your country have all these different time zones. Right? I'm with you. How confusing. I never know which way's up, and I get everything wrong. And so I yet again apologize to everybody because I always mess up. Right? Where I'm from, we only have 1 time zone. We only have to go through 1. But
It's so beautiful watching you in the struggle.
Right? I am so struggling.
Okay, you're growing from this.
I'm a control freak and I hate getting things wrong. So just take pity on me, please. No. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much those people who are going to watch us later on and save the date. Come join us on March 20th when I have 2 other amazing special guests, because I am so blessed that these amazing people like Julie want to hang out with me. But rumor has it that I give good hugs. So if the next time we have a live event, come on down and I promise I will give you a hug. So take care and I'll see you all soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Before I go, thank you, John. So
Yeah, thank you, John.
in the background, making sure that everything works. And thank you also to our very special guest photographer, filmmaker, and tracking person, Stacey, who was able to help us make it happen. And thank you also exceptionally to our live studio audience. Please come visit us again. So we're a little over time, but I'll see you on the 20th. Take care. Bye. So we will flip to, you can